Hello, good morning students. Welcome to e-learning. We are learning chapter 7 population and this is our 10th lecture. In our previous lecture we have studied about causes of high birth rate, but today in lecture 10 we are going to learn about causes of low birth rate. So what does this death rate has been decreased over the period of time? We have seen earlier in the death rate when we are studying it is a major cause where we find that death rate in 2011 it was 7.1, but earlier if we compare with 1951 the death rate was 27.4 per 1000 persons. So you find that over the period of time from 1951 where it was approx 27, which has came or which has been reduced to 7 in 2011. So over the period of 60 years or 6 decades we can say that the death rate has fallen down continuously. So what is the reason behind this? What causes there is a decrease in death rate, or what causes the low death rate? We are going to learn today in this particular lecture. So let's start and let's know what are the points which made to decrease in the death rate. The first point talks about the improvement of standard of living. So we find that over the period of time from 1951, our independence time, and after that census data 1951 till 2011, we have seen there has been increase in the standard of living of people, where many of the rural people have shifted to the urban cities, we can say. So you find that because of good amount of money income, good amount of standard of living, due to different facilities, social and entertainment facilities are available, all these factors lead to attract to the urban cities, and we find that we have developed, our country has developed, and so that our standard of living has been grown from that particular era. Second point talks about the control over epidemics. Now epidemics means here diseases which have been came in the, if we talk about 19, from the year 1901 till 2011 there have been many diseases which came, and we have put control over it. Not we means not only India but everywhere in the world we have controlled that particular disease, and especially for our country we have taken control over this particular epidemic. So we are going to know from 1901 which all diseases have made came and affected the India, and as well as we have seen in the starting trends also that that particular disease were being controlled. Now then comes the control on drought. Yes, this was a major factor, that famines दुकाड़ पड़ी जाए. You find that this famines made a very big problem to the agriculture sector, farmers especially. So you find that because of drought there was not a proper crop rotations or crop plantations, so crops were not grown because of this famine. So we find that here this particular become a major problem, and then after we have found out how to overcome this particular drought situation and how to store foods and everything. So that particular thing we are going to learn. And lastly, protection against natural calamities. Natural calamities, or we can say natural disasters which are happened, like tsunamis, floods, different areas, landslides, etc. So all these natural calamities where our human has no control, so how we have protected other peoples, how we have transported them and given them different facilities of fooding, shelter, etc. So all this particular thing made decrease in the death rate compared to the 19th era and the 2000 era. So let's start and let's quickly learn about this first point, that is improvement in standard of living. So when word comes standard of living, what does it comes? We have increased in income. So very first point comes in your thinking, in my thinking, then whenever the word of standard living comes, that is there is an increase in income, there should be an increase in income, then only we find that there is a standard of living. So we can have a good standard of living when we have good amount of income which has been earned. So we find that from 1951 era till 2011 our people's standard of living has increased. People will demand luxurious food, nutritive food, you find that luxurious clothes, they have now mobile smartphones, their laptops, computer, everything. So they have been developed with different needs, and these all are things which have been told, or I have just said their names, are being important to everyone's life. Even in this pandemic situation you find that everyone is now learning with the different electronic media, where it has become a necessary source for them to learn. So this is what we find, that this particular things became very necessary. So it shows there is an improvement in standard of living. Our necessity has been changed over the period of time. Earlier it was only food, clothing, shelter, but today a person cannot live without mobile phone. So you find that mobile phones are there, internet is there, laptop is there. Even though with some of the luxurious things, for us it is a normal, but for a poor people it is a luxurious thing. Like we require mopeds, we require bikes, cars, etc. So all this became a part of a living thing from person who was only going with walking in 1951. So if you just ask your grandfathers what was the situation in 1951 and at present, you get to know what is the difference from the standard of living in that particular era, 1951, and this particular era. So you find that because of our country has becoming developing, it is growing day by day. So we find that till 2011 our standard of living was been going on, or we can say till 2019, that is before this pandemic situation, our standard of living was been going high and high. So you find that here people move, it is not written here, but we find that people move from rural areas to urban areas because of good amount of job, good amount of salary. We find that they want to settle here because of the good medical facilities, their children can get high education. You find that entertainment and social activities, cultures and traditions attracts rural people to move from here and there. So we can write here, this particular thing made possible that there is more people coming in urban cities to have a good standard of living. So we find that because of this particular thing, good amount of medication, we can say medical facilities has been increased. The pharmaceutical companies has increased over the period of time enormously means so much plenty. Nowadays you find that different medicines came, different medicines companies have been came, and there are different high-tech machines which will help for the survival of a human being. So we find that this medication facilities helps to save the life of a people, and so this decreases the death ratio. So you find that the death rate has decreased because of this particular improvement in standard of living. We find that good quality of food grains, housing, healthcare, education, different social culture activities leads to be high living standards and low death rate. Now moving to the next point, here it talks about the control over epidemics. Now epidemics means here the major in the 20th century, beginning of the 20th century, it talks about in 1901. From there, if you see, there were so many threatening diseases like what? Plague, influenza, measles. Then after you find that tuberculosis, TB. Then after you find that malaria. All these became that time a major disease because there were no vaccines available. They didn't know how this particular disease are causing them and how to overcome this. But after this time has been gone, like initially this became a major pandemic situation also, but then after scientists have came up with different ideologies, different methods to overcome this particular, and vaccines were made, and then after we find that we have overcome this particular plague, measles, tuberculosis, malaria. Still some of the diseases are still there and it is to be controlled, but we find that now we know that malaria has become a very common flu for us. So all this particular thing has rate death rate that time very much. In the year 1921, due to this particulars, all this disaster diseases, you find that it has made so many people to the death. Even though there was World War which was going on, where it was the second cause also, the death rate was less, but still most of the people were died in 1921 was because of this plague, measles, tuberculosis, influenza, so malaria. All this were where the vaccines were not available. There was that time the country was not that much developed in medical eras. So you find that this diseases lead greater deaths in 19th era, or we can say 20th century, where we are living today in 21st century, in 2020. We find that there are much more diseases which we have at present. We have corona disease, but still scientists are making so many different, they are researching, and they are making medicines which are being available, which will boost our immune system. So this particular thing will be go on, and again it has been written here when and where you find that this particular disease comes and it spread a very huge disaster after so and so time there has been an immense increase or development which has been found. So we find that it may result after few years in a good different development which can be possible in our country also after this corona pandemic situations. Now let's hope for the best. Now coming to the third one, that is control on droughts. What is drought? Drought is famine. Famine मतलब क्या भाई? दुकाळ पड़ जाता है. When there is no rain, a situation occurs where the farmer who is growing crops and waiting for the rain to rain so that their crops can grow very well, but that time the rain does not fall. It is a situation where the whole year the rain does not fall on that particular crop or on that particular place. So it is called a drought. It is called a famine. So in the era of 1950 to 1965 we have seen there were 3 to 4 droughts year which has came, and because of that it resulted what? It resulted low crop production. So low crop production leads to be less amount of production of crops, and it becomes difficult to help the people from hunger. So we find that this lead to be hunger and leads to the people who are in hunger. वहाँ पे उन लोग को क्रॉप्स नहीं मिल पा रहे और यहाँ पे हमारा क्रॉप्स नहीं ग्रो हो रहा, वेजिटेशन नहीं ग्रो हो रहा है, तो इट रिजल्ट टू बी डेथ बिकॉज ऑफ ओनली हंगर. So this supply of food grains was been necessary, and that time it was been registered after 1966. मतलब ये सब देखा उन लोग ने 1951 से लेकर 1965 तक. उसके बाद इन लोग ने रजिस्टर किया कि भाई सप्लाई ऑफ फूड ग्रेन्स होना चाहिए, सब जगह पे होना चाहिए. और उसके बाद we have seen also there was a green revolution which was been implemented in India, where more and more crops can be grown with very few amount of water supply or irrigation facility, which leads to be control over droughts और famine. मतलब अगर बारिश ना गिरे, थोड़े से पानी से हम पूरा क्रॉप्स ग्रो कर सकते हैं, फार्मर्स को वो तकलीफ नहीं आएगा, और इसके वजह से हम हमारा जो रेगुलर प्रोडक्शन उससे ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन कर सकते हैं, एंड वी कैन सप्लाई मोर अमाउंट ऑफ गुड फूड ग्रेन्स. सो दिस विल हेल्प the hunger peoples or poor peoples also from their death. Again we find that after the crops are being grown, it should be transported, so it should be supplied in different areas where there is a possibilities of drought. So ऐसा नहीं है कि drought मतलब पूरे हर जगह पे हर यहाँ पे. So it might be possible at some places the rainfall does not fall, and due to this unconditional climate which was been there in that time also 1951 to 1965, we have seen that many people or many places there was been famine, and वहाँ पे production ना होने की वजह से बहुत सारे लोग मर गए because of hunger. So transportation plays an important role where this particular places where there is no rainfall, another places where there is a abundant rainfall, और वहाँ पे green revolution की वजह से ड्यू टू हाई यील्डिंग क्रॉप्स, मतलब जो वेराइटी क्रॉप्स हाई यील्डिंग वेराइटी क्रॉप्स होते हैं, उससे हम ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन करके ये जो स्केयर जहाँ पे फूड कम है, जहाँ पे प्रोडक्शन नहीं हुआ, उनको सप्लाई करो, और उसके बाद वी कैन सी दैट दिस पर्टिकुलर पीपल कैन बी सेव फ्रॉम दिस हंगर और वी कैन से लैक ऑफ फूड ग्रेन्स. सो स्टारवेशन वाला प्रॉब्लम ना आए, तो वो हमने 1966 के बाद रजिस्टर किया भी हम कहाँ कहाँ पे सप्लाई करेंगे, कहाँ कहाँ पे ड्राउट्स है, फेमाइंस है, तो हमने ये सिचुएशन देख के अंडर कंट्रोल कर दिया. सो दिस इज हाउ इट हैज़ बीन डन, इट हैज़ बीन एनालाइज, एंड देन आफ्टर सिचुएशंस कैन बी ओवरकम विद डिफरेंट आइडियोलॉजीज. And green revolution also came that time, which helped a plus point, a bonus point to us to stop this death due to hunger. So main reason here in Drought was the people were died due to hunger, whereas in epidemics there was different diseases which will made the people to die. So you have to remember different points as different keywords, and different keywords will lead to be clicked in your mind, and easily you can write your answers by your own. Only some keywords you have to remember. Now coming to the fourth and the last point, that is protection against natural calamities. So when we talk about natural calamities, what are the natural disasters happen? That is very first word that comes, that is earthquake. Yes, then after tsunami, landslides, floods, famines. तो ये सब चीज़ फेमाइंस के ऊपर तो हमने पूरा टॉपिक लास्ट थर्ड पॉइंट में हमने पढ़ लिया, लेकिन यहाँ पे अर्थक्वेक्स आर देयर, सुनामी वाज बीन देयर, लैंडस्लाइड्स आर देयर, फ्लड्स. सो ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ लास्ट 15 years वी हैव सीन from your childhood till now, you have seen there were so many different disasters caused due to tsunami also, landslides also, earthquake also, even though floods also. So we have been seen in India there are many places which are been affected with by this tsunami. That is in 2004, this great tsunami which came. Then after floods, lastly we can say in 2018 Kerala, then landslides. सो उत्तराखंड, ऑल दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग्स आपको पता ही है, ये सब वजह से यहाँ पे बहुत सारे रीजन, अर्थक्वेक जापान को याद कर लो. सो ऑल दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग, सुनामी से भी आप जापान को याद कर सकते हो. ऑल दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग मेड वेरी मच इंक्रीज इन हाई डेथ रेट. और ये अभी की बात नहीं कर रहा मैं, इट वॉज देयर इन अर्लियर इन 1951 एरा में, और पूरा 20th सेंचुरी में भी था. तो दिस लीड टू बी मोर डेथ फॉल्स बिकॉज ऑफ दिस नेचुरल कैलमिटीज. पीपल जहाँ पे उन लोगों को कुछ आइडिया नहीं है कब ये सिचुएशन आने वाला है, व्हेन देयर विल बी अ अर्थक्वेक, व्हेन देयर विल बी अ सुनामी. बट एट प्रेजेंट वी नो इफ अ पर्टिकुलर साइक्लोन इज ऑल्सो अकरिंग इन, वी फाइंड इन Arabian Sea or Bay of Bengal, we can able to know with the application that is windy. So if you are regularly watching this particular this news, climatic news, you get to know. So here, due to advance in technology, due to advance in everything, we can control at present, or we can exactly know what is going to happen in next coming few days, or what will be the climatic condition in next few days. So this will help us to just take safety measures or precautions regarding this particular major natural calamities like earthquake, tsunami, landslide, cyclone also you can add here. So this may affect, and to overcome this situation we have to take safety measures, and we have to shift this particular peoples from one place to another, which will help them to survive. Otherwise what will happen if we does not inform them, if they are not been informed or known anything, they will be under the different disaster points, and वहाँ पे वो मर जाएंगे, मर सकते हैं. So वो उसको overcome के लिए, this is the responsibility of the country or the government itself to come over this particular situation. And because of this we find that this advanced technology help us to know the climatic situations, conditions over us. Still we find that some people are causing under this, they are falling, they are dying under this particular situation, but many of them are being saved. Again we find that when this particular situation occurs, तो हमने देखा है कि उन लोग को ज़्यादा अवेलेबिलिटी क्या चाहिए, फूड ग्रेन्स की चाहिए. केरला की बात कर लो. सो इन 2018 वी हैव सीन केरला हैज़ बीन इन द फ्लड्स. सो वहाँ पे भी बहुत सारे लोग ने हेल्प किया था, डोनेशंस किया था, सब कुछ किया था, जिससे वो पूरा वापस उन लोग को आ जाए. सो ऑल दिस सिचुएशन आप याद करो, उसको समझो, एंड वी फाइंड दैट वी हैव सीन so many people helping from the country and outside the country also for this particular places. So what is necessary for them, that is food grains, medicines, some of the necessary foods, all these things अगर उन लोग को मिल जाए, अगर ये लोग वहाँ पे अफेक्टेड है ये सब सिचुएशन से, ये सब नेचुरल कैलामिटी से, तो इन लोग को ये हेल्प करना चाहिए by the government, by the people, everyone. So we find that all these particular points leads nothing but we can say there is a reduce in the death rate. There is a reduce in the death rate, or it causes a very low death rate in India, and we have completed this particular topic. Still, if you find any problem, any doubt regarding this, you can just call or message me on my number. Okay, and next class we are going to learn about how to reduce the population, so which will be our last lecture. So keep studying. If you find any doubt, you can just ask me. Prepare for your examination. Also go with these lectures also. It does not mean that you're having a monthly examination, so you no need to go with this chapter is not coming in examination, so you no need to go with this chapter also. Complete it. It will complete get by tomorrow, and then after you can go with revision. Okay, so keep learning, find doubts and ask me.